Sometimes a regular day in Washington can turn into something absolutely wild in the blink of an eye. The big boss man, Donald Trump, looking all serious and ready to talk, and then bam! Two women, dressed in hardly anything, step up and change the whole script. It was a moment nobody saw coming, and it left everyone wondering what on earth just happened. Before we dive into all the juicy details, tell us something. Where are you watching this from? Your city, your state. We love to hear from our amazing viewers all across the country. Drop a comment down below and let us know. Alright, so here's how it all went down. The sun was shining bright over the White House. One of those days where the grass on the south lawn looked extra green. You could hear the whirring sound of Marine One, the president's special helicopter, getting ready in the distance. It was a pretty normal scene. Reporters were gathered, cameras ready, microphones pointing forward like a bunch of curious meerkats. They were all waiting for President Trump. He was on his way to the helicopter, but everyone knew he'd probably stop for a quick chat with the press. He usually does, you know? Likes to get his side of the story out there. And sure enough, out he came, walking with that confident stride he has. He was wearing his usual dark blue suit, crisp white shirt, and a red tie that stood out. He gave a little wave, a sort of half smile, and walked right up to the reporters. "Mr. President! Mr. President!" The reporters started shouting, all trying to get their questions in. He held up a hand, and things quieted down a bit. He started talking about something to do with the economy, something about new jobs, the usual stuff you hear from leaders. He sounded strong, like he always tries to, but then, just as he was in the middle of a sentence, everything changed. Suddenly, from the edge of the press group, two figures pushed forward. It happened so fast. These weren't reporters, they were two young women, and boy did they know how to make an entrance. The first woman, on the left if you were facing Trump, had long, dark brown hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. Big silver hoop earrings glinted in the sun, but it wasn't her hair or earrings that caught everyone's eye. She was wearing a very revealing black bra-like top, with sheer see-through parts that had a kind of swirly pattern. Below that, just a tiny pair of black underwear, like a bikini bottom. And in her hands, she was holding a big, bright rainbow flag, the kind that stands for LGBTQ+ pride. She also clutched a small, white, flat thing, maybe a purse or a folded sign, with a black circle symbol on it. She looked to be in her late 20s, maybe early 30s, and her face was set with determination. The second woman, standing a bit to her right and closer to Trump, had wavy blonde or light brownish hair that bounced around her shoulders. She was also dressed in a way that screamed, "Look at me." She had on a lacy bra, a soft beige or light pink color, and below that patterned underwear, pink, white, and black with a noticeable dark waistband. She was holding up her phone, like she was recording everything. She looked a little younger, maybe in her mid-20s, and she was already starting to shout something. Hey, what's going on here?" One of the security guys near Trump mumbled, his eyes darting towards them. He was a big guy in a dark suit, white shirt, and a red and blue striped tie, looking very serious. The reporters went silent for a second, totally stunned. Then, a buzz went through the crowd. Cameras immediately swung away from Trump and focused on the two women. "Shame! Shame on you!" the blonde woman yelled, her voice surprisingly loud. The woman with the flag unfurled it even wider, holding it high. "Rights are not a debate. Love is love," she shouted, her voice ringing out across the lawn. President Trump, who had been mid-sentence, stopped. His head snapped towards the sound. You could see a flicker of annoyance, maybe even surprise, cross his face. His mouth tightened. For a second, it looked like he might just ignore them and turn back to the reporters, or let his security team handle it. One of his aides, a younger man in a suit, leaned in and whispered something, probably telling him to just go to the helicopter. But nope, that's not really Trump's style, is it? He took a step towards the women, a sort of challenging look in his eyes. He actually seemed to, well, not welcome it, but he wasn't going to back down. It was like he saw it as another chance to fight, to show he was in charge. All right, what's all this about?" Trump said, his voice a bit louder than before, cutting through their chants. He gestured towards them with one hand. "You got something to say? Say it." The reporters scrambled, pushing a bit to get a better view of this unexpected showdown. This was way more interesting than economic policy. The woman with the dark ponytail and the rainbow flag stepped forward a little more. Let's call her Ava. "Mr. President," Ava began, her voice shaking just a tiny bit but still strong. "We are here because your policies are hurting people. You are trying to erase us. The LGBTQ+ community deserves respect, deserves rights, deserves to live without fear." She held the flag up even higher, its bright colors a stark contrast to the serious suits and the green lawn. Her outfit, so bold and revealing, was clearly part of her protest, a way of saying, "We are here, we are visible, and we won't be hidden or shamed." Trump listened, his head tilted slightly, a small frown on his face. He let her finish. "Erasing who?" he shot back. "Nobody is erasing anyone. We're bringing common sense back. That's what we're doing. Common sense." He looked around at the press as if to say, "See? This is what I have to deal with." Then the other woman, the blonde one, let's call her Chloe, chimed in. She still had her phone up, recording. "Common sense?" Chloe scoffed, her voice sharp. "Is it common sense to tell people they aren't who they are? You signed orders saying there are only two sexes. What about transgender people? What about non-binary people? We exist, Mr. President. Your words, your laws, they have real, dangerous consequences." Her underwear, with its prominent band, almost looked like a statement itself, daring anyone to judge her for her body or her choices. This seemed to get Trump a bit more riled up. He puffed out his chest a little. "Now hold on," he said, pointing a finger. "We are protecting women. We are protecting children. We have to have fairness. Men shouldn't be competing in women's sports. It's not fair. Everyone knows it's not fair." He was talking louder now, almost like he was at one of his rallies. "And this whole ideology you're pushing, it's very divisive. Very, very divisive. Most people don't agree with it, you know. They don't." Ava, the woman with the flag, tried to interrupt. "It's not an ideology. It's about human beings. It's about our lives. It's about our right to exist," Chloe added, her voice cracking with emotion. But Trump was on a roll. "I have many, many gay friends. Tremendous people. Some of them work for me, very high up. They do a fantastic job. So don't tell me I'm against anyone. I'm for fairness. I'm for America." He tapped his chest. "We are making this country strong, and we're not going to let radical ideas tear it apart." The scene was getting pretty intense. The Secret Service agents around Trump were looking more tense now, their eyes scanning the small crowd, hands ready. The aide who had whispered to Trump earlier was now practically tugging at his elbow, trying to get him to move towards Marine One. The helicopter blades were starting to pick up speed, the whump 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 growing louder, adding to the chaotic feel. "Mr. President, we have to go," the aide said, his voice urgent but drowned out by the shouting in the helicopter. Chloe wasn't backing down. "Radical ideas. Wanting to be safe is radical. Wanting to be treated like a human being is radical." She shook her head, her blonde hair flying. "Your administration is actively trying to take away our protections. Don't you see the harm you're causing?" Ava chimed in again, her voice pleading now. "We just want justice, Mr. President. We want you to listen, to understand. Your supporters might cheer for these policies, but real people are suffering." The rainbow flag drooped a little in her hand, as if tired from the fight. Trump looked from one woman to the other. His face was a bit flushed. It was clear he wasn't going to change his mind, and they weren't going to change theirs. This argument could go on all day. Finally, he seemed to decide he'd had enough. He glanced at his aide, then back at the women, and then at the press, who were furiously scribbling notes and snapping pictures. "Look," he said, his voice firm and final, trying to sound like he was ending the discussion on his terms. "I've heard you. Okay? I've heard you. But I was elected to do a job, and I'm doing it. And we are not backing down. Not ever." He gave a sharp nod. "We are going to continue to do what's right for this country." And with that, he turned sharply on his heel. His aide looked relieved. The Secret Service agents formed a tighter circle around him as he walked quickly towards the waiting Marine One. He didn't look back. In a few moments, he was climbing the steps and disappearing inside. The helicopter doors slammed shut. But Ava and Chloe weren't done. As the roar of Marine One's engines grew deafening and the helicopter began to lift off, stirring up wind and grass clippings all over the lawn, they turned to the reporters who were now swarming them. "Did you hear him?" Chloe yelled over the noise, holding her phone towards the cameras now. "He doesn't care. He won't listen." Ava stood tall, the rainbow flag now whipping in the wind from the helicopter. "This isn't over," she declared. "We will keep fighting. We demand equality. We demand to be seen and heard. Our existence is not a political football. Their bold outfits, the bright flag, their passionate words. It was all designed to make a statement, and they made sure the cameras caught every bit of it as the president flew away. They had ambushed his press moment, and even though he didn't agree with them, they had made sure their voices and their protest were the last thing everyone on that lawn, and soon, everyone watching the news, would remember from that morning. The two women, exposed and defiant, stood their ground on the White House lawn, their message echoing long after the helicopter was just a speck in the sky. Whew! What a moment that must have been. So what do you think? Did President Trump handle that the right way? Or do you think Ava and Chloe really made him listen, even for a second? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We're really curious to hear what you all think about this. And hey, if you love moments like this and want to keep up with all the incredible things that happen, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss a thing. We've got plenty more to share.